His word. Verse 19 in Romans says, "For as by one man's obedience many were made sinners, so by the obedience of one shall many be made righteous." For a few moments we want to talk from the subject, the second time around. The second time around. When we were growing up, there was a playground at the elementary school that my brother and I attended called Westwood Elementary. And the school was near the corner of our street. And as a child, we would play in the park, my brother and some of the other neighborhood kids. And our competitive games were played not with elaborate and costly electronic equipment that they have today, but with simple things like broomsticks and balls. As with most young children, the competition often became very intense. Winning was everything, and no one wanted to lose. That must be the reason why we came up with this thing we call do-over. Oh yes, perhaps many of you will remember do-over. What I mean by the do-over is that at any time during the game, if we made a mistake, we would holler, "I call a do-over," in an effort to avoid the last play and allow us to start over again. Now, I admit that it didn't always work. Sometimes the other team just would not back down, and we would just have to live with our mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes would cost us the game. But every once in a while, the do-over got us out of some tight spots. Think about it. Wouldn't it be great if life had a built-in do-over clause? Now, I'm not talking about an instant replay, but I'm talking about a chance to make some changes that would allow you to erase your mistakes that could alter the outcome of your life. I'm talking about a failed final exam and you can do it over. Get caught in adultery and you can do it over. Help me somebody. Get drunk and wreck your car and life will give you a do-over. Get hooked on drugs and do over. Tell a lie and have a chance to do over. Or something you didn't mean to do or say, but life would grant you a do-over. It would be so gratifying to be able to erase all the mistakes before they had a chance to permanently impact our reputation and transform our future. But you see, the do-over could only work to correct known mistakes. I think I said that again. I said the do-over. When we played the game and we had the do-over, it would only allow us to correct known mistakes. But the question is, what about the things we do without knowing the impact they have on our lives? By this I mean, at the least most of us live under some partial delusion of our impact on the world around us. We think we are we think we are kind, considerate, and gracious when we're really not. We think we're building positive stuff into our children when in reality, if we could check with them 20 years later, we might find out that we really didn't. Truth be told, there's no way to check into the future with a crystal ball and see the outcome of your life in advance. So let me just put a pin there, because I know folk go to the tarot card readers, and I know that they go and they got these dream books and all these folk that proclaim to predict the future. But let me tell you something, that's hocus pocus. Amen, somebody. The Bible already predicts the future, and if you believe in Jesus and you believe that He is the leader and the guide of your life, you don't need to go and sit before a witch, amen, or a wizard to try and tell you, because God has all the answers that you need. Oh yes, if there were guarantees, I guarantee that most of us would cry for a do-over. I don't know about you, but if I can look into the future and see the mistakes I would make before I even make, I would call a do-over. Oh yes, church, I got to caution you this morning that do-overs are the stuff of fantasy. You see, you can't tell the judge I call a do-over. You can't tell your estranged spouse, I call a do-over. You can't tell the officer that's writing you a speeding ticket, I call a do-over. The reality is that when we mess up, when we make a mistake, when we fumble the ball, the truth is we're all at the mercy of God. In our text in Genesis 2, Adam was at the mercy of God. You see, Adam had messed up on his job. And let me tell you right now, Adam had an easy job as a caretaker. It was his job to take care of the Garden of Eden, to dress it and to keep it. But he made a mistake. He and his wife ate fruit that God told them not to eat from the forbidden tree in the middle of the garden. Oh yes, he and his wife ate fruit that God told them not to eat. And slicked by the serpent, Eve took the first bite. Let's get the record straight. She was slicked by the serpent. Eve took the first bite and then she gave some to Adam. And Adam knew right away what he had done because he ran and hid himself. Don't you know, we know when we mess up. Folks don't always have to pull on your coattail. You know when you're out of order. You know when you did something you shouldn't have done or said something you shouldn't have said. And Adam knew what he had done because he hid himself. And when God came looking for Adam to reprimand him, and he found him cowering himself among the trees, Adam tried to pull a do-over. Oh yes, Adam blamed Eve for his sin, and he told God that she made me do it. But God wasn't having it. God wasn't buying it. Try telling that to a police officer or a judge. It didn't work then, and guess what? It won't work now. Adam was in a fix. He was in a bad situation. His permanent vacation was now over. For the rest of his life, he would have to toil in sorrow, performing the back-breaking work of a farmer and finding it hard to try to feed his family. Eve had to suffer as well. Eve suffered from the pain of childbirth as punishment for her role that she played in this fiasco, all because sin had been let loose in the world. And if ever there was a time for a do-over, it was then. And from that day forward, sin separated man from God. Even after God called Abraham out of a sin-filled world and established a covenant relationship with him and his seed, the nation of Israel remained plagued by sin. Oh yes, even with sound leadership, sin continued to have a field day in the lives of God's people. Sin's grip was just too powerful for man to overcome. And so God sent Moses, but Moses couldn't do it. God sent Joshua, but Joshua couldn't do it. God sent prophets, but the prophets couldn't do it. He sent David, but David couldn't do it. God sent John the Baptist, and John